Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Americans in mourning for those lost in the racially motivated shooting rampage in Buffalo and the politically motivated attack at a church in California. What we've learned about both of these shooting attacks is ahead. Russia's war in Ukraine not going well. One report says Russia has lost a third of its forces. Plus, one issue for voters, inflation. And critics say one cause is too much government spending in the past year.
Modern monetary theory says you can devalue the dollar, you can print as many dollars as you like, spend as much as you like without consequences. And that's what we're experiencing today. They trash the dollar, they hurt production, and prices go up.
We'll hear what media executive Steve Forbes has to say about the outlook for inflation in the months ahead. And Hollywood producer and best-selling author Devon Franklin honoring the women who helped to raise him after his father died.
I really wanted to do this because so often, it's one thing for me as a man to say what the women have done in my life. It's another thing for someone to be able to hear from them. And this book gives the listener a chance to hear directly from these dynamic, powerful, and amazing women.
We'll hear how they shaped him into the man he is today. All those stories and more are ahead on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin with the aftermath of those deadly shootings this weekend. President Biden will travel to Western New York today to meet with family members of the victims killed in Saturday's racially motivated gun rampage. The gunman, 18-year-old Peyton Gendron, had intended to attack more people if he could have.
His plans were to drive out of here and then continue driving down Jefferson Avenue, looking to shoot more black people.
Investigators will try for the days to come to piece together the massacre that killed 10 black people. Gendron apparently planned the attack for at least the last 2 months. Investigators also found Gendron had posted this 180-page rambling racist manifesto online detailing his plot. Turning now to California, church members came together to mourn for those killed in Buffalo and for the man killed in a shooting at the Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods on Sunday. 5 others were injured. Most of the church's members are elderly, highly educated Taiwanese immigrants. Authorities say the shooting had political motivations. The suspect, 68-year-old David Chow, was reportedly upset about political tensions between China and Taiwan. One man was killed, Dr. John Chang, the sheriff calling him a hero.
Dr. Chang charged the individual, the suspect, attempted to disarm him.
The sheriff Chang's actions probably saved the lives upwards of a dozen people. The congregation's pastor also jumped in, hitting the shooter with a chair. Elon Musk says his deal to buy Twitter can't move forward unless the company shows public proof that less than 5 of the accounts on the social media platform are fake or spam. Musk made the comment in a reply to another user on Twitter early today. Musk tweeted that Twitter could have 20% fake spam accounts, while 4 times what Twitter claims could be much higher. My offer was based on Twitter's SEC filing being accurate. Musk says the deal cannot move forward until he sees proof about the numbers of Twitter's fake accounts. Musk says he wants to get rid of those that are fake. Many critics hope Musk will open Twitter up to more free speech. I want to turn now to the war on Ukraine. Russia's troops are suffering major defeats. Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine is not working out as planned, but he is not giving up. He's moving nuclear weapons to Russia's border with Finland, and Russian forces have captured the city of Mariupol after it held out for 80 days. Here now is CBN's Jenna Browder.
Finland and Sweden are moving forward with their bids to join NATO, a process taking anywhere from 4 months to a year. Publicly, Russia's Vladimir Putin has said it's no big deal, but his actions suggest otherwise. The 2 countries announcing plans to join the alliance. Finland's admission would put another NATO nation on Russia's border. In the past, Putin has called the alliance's expansion into Eastern Europe a threat and has threatened retaliation. But when the president of Finland delivered the news in a phone conversation, he said Putin took the news calmly and didn't repeat those threats.
What he said doesn't mean that you shouldn't be all the time quite well aware and follow up what really is happening.
Putin may be talking softly, but he's swinging a big stick. This video showing Russian trucks carrying nuclear weapons to the border with Finland. On the ground in Ukraine, in the ruined city of Mariupol, some 260 wounded fighters holed up in that steel mill have been allowed to leave and taken to Russian-controlled territory. The Ukrainian government is working to secure the release of hundreds more, though it would mean they would become prisoners of war. It comes as Ukrainian troops continue to score more victories, retaking Kharkiv and reaching the Russian border. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky congratulating those troops.
Дуже вам вдячний від всіх українців, від кожного, від себе, від моєї сім'ї.
The UK now estimates Russia has lost 1/3 of their ground combat forces. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
The United States and our allies and partners are focused on giving Ukraine as strong a hand as possible on the battlefield and at any negotiating table so that it can repel Russian aggression and fully defend its independence and sovereignty.
And the flood of Ukrainian citizens fleeing the fighting is now starting to reverse. The country's border service saying more people have returned to the country than left in recent days. And in another blow to the Kremlin, McDonald's now says it's leaving Russia. The company announcing it plans to sell off all of its business there. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Some Ukrainians have returned home, but millions have fled to neighboring Poland. Many arrive hungry and with little money. And CBN's Operation Blessing is on the border, providing them with food and other necessities.
Now, we're at the OB warehouse in Medica that is close to the border to Ukraine. We're trying to fulfill a lot of boxes with food. The refugees are coming here just with the bags, with the clothes, and sometimes with no money. So we're trying to help them with a lot of food to work with a network of churches and refugees so we can give them this kind of supplies so they can help the people that are coming to their places right now. A lot of volunteers are trying to fulfill these boxes so they can have like a healthy supplies for at least 2 weeks. This will help a family of 4 people. So we're really glad of all the help that you're providing us. Thank you for everything that you do for us.
You can help Operation Blessing in its disaster relief efforts. Call 1-800-700-7000. Let us know that you want to give to Operation Blessing's Disaster Relief Fund. You can also write us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia 23463. Simply note on the memo line of your check, Disaster Relief Fund. You can text as well. Simply text OB Crisis to 71777, or you can visit our website, cbn.com or ob.org. Anything you're able to do is, of course, greatly appreciated and needed. Coming up, inflation is the #1 issue for voters. So what's one of the top reasons prices are going up? Media executive Steve Forbes is one of the critics who's pointing to heavy government spending over the past year. We're going to hear what he has to say when we come back. President Biden puts the blame of inflation on the current events like the war in Ukraine and Republicans, but many critics, including leading Democratic economists, disagree. They say the president's policies and Democratic spending have made inflation worse. One of those critics is media executive Steve Forbes. He talked with our Gary Lane about the role of government spending and how it's played in the current inflation crisis.
Inflation has already hit 40-year highs, stretching pocketbooks and causing hardship for many Americans. Some economists call it inflation shock, accompanied by predictions of a recession. The Federal Reserve is responding by raising interest rates. Forbes Media CEO and former Republican presidential candidate Steve Forbes believes the Fed's efforts to cool down the economy may only make matters worse.
That's what they mean when they say soft landing. What they really mean is more unemployment, and too often it leads to a crash landing for the economy.
In his new book, Inflation, Forbes provides readers an easy-to-understand primer on inflation, why it's bad and how to fix it. He says skyrocketing price increases are only the symptoms, not the cause of inflation. Forbes blames out-of-control spending as one cause. Americans have seen the national debt triple since President Obama entered office in January 2009. It now stands at more than $30 trillion. Forbes points to a concept embraced by Congress and the president called modern monetary theory.
Modern monetary theory says you can devalue the dollar, you can print as many dollars as you like, spend as much as you like without consequences. And that's what we're experiencing today. They trash the dollar, they hurt production, and prices go up.
And what about non-monetary inflation? A COVID outbreak caused China's communist government to confine Shanghai residents to their homes during the month of April. That led to a slowdown in manufacturing. Shanghai is a manufacturing hub and home to the world's largest port. Similar lockdowns are already underway in parts of Beijing. So how might that affect the global supply chain and prices here in the United States? Do you expect prices of many consumer products to jump even more so due to lack of availability?
Well, what that means is that price increases are going to be continuing to be with us. And that's, again, the non-monetary kind of inflation, this kind of artificial disruption, shutting down a whole city, the most sophisticated, largest city in China. Very foolish, but they did it, and that hurts. And those kinds of things, that monetary kind of inflation guy, is something that if governments just leave the economy alone, people will work it out, get around it.
Forbes believes Americans need to be prepared for worse inflation in the months ahead.
If you think prices are bad now, wait until a year and a half when the Federal Reserve follows through on printing a lot more money. Then you're going to really hurt at the pump and at the marketplace.
As individuals seek to protect their money and investments, they could be tempted to look to cryptocurrency. Forbes, however, prefers stablecoins over Bitcoin.
Stablecoin cryptocurrencies are tied to a specific asset like gold or the dollar, so you don't get the kind of fluctuations. And so Bitcoin, you would never take a mortgage out in Bitcoin. Let's say you took a $250,000 mortgage out in Bitcoin, you may up a year later owing $2.5 million. And so that kind of instability doesn't make it work as a currency. But I see the time coming, and we discuss this in the book, is that stable coins could eventually be a competitor to government money like the dollar or the pound or the yen or the euro. People use these stable coins rather than the untrustworthy money that comes from government.
And I can't let you go without asking you, flat tax, you still believe in that?
I believe it in more than ever, as we now have literally millions of words in the corrupt federal income tax code that nobody understands. The IRS is hopeless today. I used to say bury the code, but the EPA probably wouldn't allow that since it's so toxic. So just throw it out and just start all over again, single rate. Under a flat tax, for example, a family of four, their first $52,800 of salary would be free of federal income tax. Go to a simple flat tax, go to doing what we did for 180 years, fix the dollar to gold, and by golly, you'd see this country boom like it's never done before.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Still ahead, Hollywood producer and best-selling author Devon Franklin celebrates the women who helped to raise him after his father's death, and they have shaped him to be the man he is today. We got the story about his new Audible book when we come back. Stay with us. An African proverb says it takes a village to raise a child. Hollywood producer and best-selling author Devon Franklin offers a personal twist in a new Audible book called It Takes a Woman. In it, Devon introduces and celebrates the women who helped to raise him after his father's death. These are the women who shaped him into the man he is today. He shared some of his story with CBN's Prayer Link. Take a look.
Why was this project of celebrating the women in your life so important for you to do?
Because I wanted to make sure as a man that I was appropriately thanking and displaying and allowing people to hear from the women in my life. I wouldn't be the man I am if it wasn't for my mother, my grandmother's 7 sisters. And I really wanted to do this because so often, it's one thing for me as a man to say what the women have done in my life. It's another thing for someone to be able to hear from them. And this book gives the listener a chance to hear directly from these dynamic, powerful, and amazing women that I'm so blessed to have in my life.
And Devon, we just saw the pictures of those beautiful women. They are gorgeous. Yes. I love their hairstyles and their flair and everything. One of the chapters in the book shares about the death of your father. And I understand that you learned a lot about your dad and about your family out of that. Talk about that.
Yeah, my father died when I was 9 years old of a heart attack when he was 36, and leaving my mother as a single mother to me and my older brother and younger brother. And I start this audio book allowing the listener to really just drop right into the scene of me and my brothers being in the morgue and seeing my father there and what my mother instructed us to do. And I wanted to start there because that's really the scene of the crime, so to speak, meaning that's the place that started everything in our family in terms of the women in our family being activated. So I really wanted to share that. And what I've learned is that each person in my family had a different perspective. And it was really good to hear how they saw my dad's death and how they were impacted by it.
Wow. Devon, you said you had 7 sisters. Is that right?
No. My mother had 7. My grandmother had 7 sisters.
Okay.
No. There's only 3 of us, me and my older brother, younger brother. My grandmother had 7 sisters.
I gotcha. All right. Well, you say that the women in your family actually surrounded you and your brothers and made sure you wouldn't become a statistic. What were some of the things they did to help you?
One, discipline. 2, really just building a relationship with us, and a lot of communication, a lot of advice. Also, the church that I grew up in, my great aunt Ida, she was married to the pastor, my uncle, and so we really had the church as a place where we learned a lot about life and a lot about ourselves, and obviously a lot about God. And so really every single woman in the village, my grandmother's 7 sisters really imparted just a lot of wisdom and just, even to this day, most of the time if I'm hanging out with my aunt down here in LA, and Aunt Enos, and she's, 85 years old. We still have a good time. So it really that relationship that made the most difference in our lives.
And I'm not even going to go there because I know the food has been amazing that these women probably cook in the family. I already know.
You got that right.
You say, Devon, that this is the most transparent book you've ever done. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, because I finally, for the first time, really talk about my story and, the pain of it and the tragedy of it and the trauma of it and, dealing with my father's passing and all that went into that and how that impacted me and, and how that has impacted me even as an adult and as a grown man. And so, I would say that it's the most transparent, it's the most personal. And I think that's probably why, people are responding to it in such a dynamic way. We're getting messages from all around the world of people who are responding to it. And I think truth has a way of transforming. And so I wanted to be truthful, not only for myself, but to help others as well.
Powerful.
Devon, you're also set to release a new film as well as a new TV series. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I have a new TV series called Kingdom Business that's coming out on BET Plus on May 19th. All 8 episodes will drop so you can binge watch it. It's going to be your new favorite show. It's a high-stakes drama set in the world of the gospel music industry, and it stars gospel legend Yolanda Adams, but you've never seen her like this before. And we have a whole all-star cast. Kirk Franklin makes a special appearance as well. He's also an executive producer, along with myself and Dr. Holly Carter. And so we're excited to bring this show to the world and really anticipate that those who watch it will love it.
Well, we know if your hand is on it, you're anointed, it's going to be good. So we will definitely be watching. Devon Franklin, thank you so much for being with us today. We're certainly looking forward to jumping into this audio book, It Takes a Woman, and it's available on Audible. Thanks, Devon.
Thank you so much.
And for more from the Prayer Link, you can tune in tonight at 6:30 Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News Channel, or you can download the CBN News app and watch it on demand. Coming up, actress Candace Bure took to social media to explain she realized her family was under spiritual attack and how she fought back. We're going to hear what she had to say when we come back. Stay with us. Actress Candace Bure took to social media last week to share a dark presence had recently attacked her home and it was affecting her family. She talked about realizing it was a spiritual attack and how she fought back.
It's been cranky in my house for the last few days. to the point that it's weird. Like, my house is usually really peaceful and happy, and everyone's been irritable, including me, and everyone is just like at each other. And it's been like 3 days now, and it finally hit me. I'm like, oh, there's a spirit of irritability. There's a spirit of crankiness. There's a spirit of confusion. Oh, the enemy's attacking. And I think so easily we forget, and we want to just blame one another when things go wrong, and we forget that there's a very real and powerful enemy at work every single day of our lives. That enemy is the devil. He's real and he's at work, but the devil has no control or authority in my home. Jesus has all authority, all power in my home, and he reigns in my home. And so I call upon the Holy Spirit. I pray out any evil spirits that are in here, and I put on my worship music. It's just filling my home. So my home is filled with scripture and God's word, God's power, God's truth. And I just keep reminding myself of that. And I just want to encourage you today, because maybe you are going through a tough time where there's things that are just unexplainable, and yet they are explainable. It's just sometimes we don't see it. But let's not forget what's going on in the world around us.
Thousands of fans shared and commented on Bure's video, with many thanking her for being so honest and saying it was a message they needed to hear. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. I pray this thought will bless you and that you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circles of influence. When you're looking for promotion, look for a place to serve. Service will move you closer to the goal. With that word, serve today. And make this a terrific Tuesday. And be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. That is a wrap for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. If you don't mind, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. And again, I encourage you to make this a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow.